Yeah, hi everyone. I hope you're doing well today at this lovely, auspicious Dharma event in India. I am very grateful to be asked to give a Dharma talk today, and I look forward to doing this and also look forward to meeting you in person at some stage hopefully in the near future. So on behalf of the Dharmacharya Andrew J. Williams Social Welfare Buddhist Organization, and Tathagat Foundation. I welcome everybody here today. And I just let you know that in the beginning, I will actually do some chanting of Buddhist verses. I will do in Pali, a little bit in Sanskrit, and also some in English. Those prayers or verses that we normally chant 3 times, I will just do once for convenience today. And these verses represent the Theravada tradition, the Mahayana tradition, and the Vajrayana tradition, all three major traditions within Buddhism. And so this, the 25th of December, a good day for us to be doing this Dharma event. And I really appreciate that everybody has come along. And I encourage you to hear the Dharma well today, and then so that you can remember it and you can put it into practice by first of all contemplating it, thinking about it, getting some understanding, and then absorbing your mind with what it is you've understood by meditation practice, and then living it in your everyday life as well. Okay, so today I thought we'd talk about the fundamental practices in Buddhism. Of course, in a short talk, we cannot cover everything in detail, so I won't give too many details unless I think off the top of my head to expand a little bit more. But I will speak clearly so that you can understand my English, and hopefully if there's some translation, maybe you can pause the video at different times then to give some translation. Okay, so now for the chanting of the verses. Namo dasa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa buddham saranam gacchami Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from the happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I've had to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I've had to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I've had to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I've had to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Dayata gati para samgati buddhi soha. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious bodhicitta not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of shunyata not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And so I hope you're feeling nice now after the recitation of the verses. And like I mentioned, I will speak about the essential practices, essential teachings, and then the essential practices within Buddhism. Of course, all of the teachings relate to each other and intertwine and fold into each other. That's why, for instance, we call the Eightfold Path the fold path, because all of the parts of this path all intermingle with each other. Even though we study and then put them into practice as something that is their own individual parts, like for instance, right understanding is its own, right intentions its own, right speech and so forth. But actually they're all dependent upon each other and all related to each other. And also that's another reason we have the Dharma wheel, the 8-spoke Dharma wheel, or even more spokes on some wheels, because this is all connected. This circle is all connected. And with this wheel, we can overcome all of our mental afflictions, all of the kleshas we can purify, and then eventually unveil our true enlightened nature ourselves. And so that's alluding to the Four Noble Truths. Of course, the Buddha said that all samsara, all of cyclic existence and the beings within, of which we are some of, then will experience difficulties, will experience unsatisfactoriness, sometimes known as suffering, dukkha, the suffering of impermanence, obviously the everyday suffering, then the suffering of impermanence, and then the suffering that relates to all of samsara. So all pervasive suffering, sometimes also known as the suffering of anatta, or no self, because we live the opposite way. And so then we have the second noble truth of the cause of suffering, which is tanha, or desire or attachment based on ignorance, not desire based on knowing, actually. So the root cause, of course, is ignorance, lack of understanding, or avidya, the opposite of vidya. Vidya means to know, avidya means not knowing. So, excuse me just one moment. And so then the third noble truth is the cessation of suffering, nirodha. This points out that it's possible for us to uproot the cause of suffering. And then, of course, with no cause, there will be no effect of the suffering. This talks about the first two, obviously talking about the universal law of karma, karma and vipaka, or cause and effect. The cause is the second noble truth. The effect is the first noble truth. Once you uproot the cause, you uproot the ignorance with wisdom, the non-attachment, of course, with, or the attachment with non-attachment, and so on and so forth, then there is no effect. And this is nirodha, or you can also call nirvana, so the extinction of suffering. And so this is the third noble truth. The fourth noble truth is the eightfold path, the noble eightfold path, which can also be described as the three higher trainings. The three higher trainings are morality, the higher training in morality or discipline, sila. Of course, this relates to the right speech, right actions, and right livelihood. Number 3, 4, and 5 of the Eightfold Path. This is like the foundation of the path. Just like if you build a house, you have to have strong foundations. And otherwise the walls won't stand up, the ceiling will fall down. So if you have this strong foundation of the house, this helps to keep the house upright and strong and firm for you to be able to live in there. Likewise, our morality or sila, our discipline, helps us to practice the Dharma, helps us in meditation practice and to develop wisdom and compassion and loving kindness. Prajna, karuna, metta. And so this foundation of sila helps us to be able to do that. And specifically leads to our meditation, our bhavana being good. So our mind becomes ripe to be able to practice meditation better and better and better, improving all the time. And of course, the meditation then, as we purify the mind, as we sort of release the mind from a klesha, from the mental afflictions, then the mind becomes more clear and we're able to perceive things more as they really are. We can perceive the impermanent things as impermanent, the suffering as just that, the suffering. All of the Four Noble Truths you can penetrate, perceive and penetrate. And then, of course, eventually perceive the wisdom, the nature of reality. Okay, so morality is very important as the foundation of our practice. As mentioned, the morality covers right speech, right action, right livelihood. And so right speech means to avoid lying. Instead, speak the truth. To avoid slandering or speaking to divide people. Instead, speak to unite. Avoiding using harsh or abusive language. Instead, speak sweetly, with friendliness, and skillfully. Also means to avoid gossiping or meaningless talk. Instead, speak meaningfully to help to create understanding and some sort of harmony and friendship between the people that you are speaking with and yourself and others too. Because remember, when we speak, we are only ever doing so to communicate with others. We are not doing it really just for ourselves. Otherwise, we should stay quiet, yes? Also, then we have the right actions. This means to avoid actions like killing, instead, respect, protect, and even save lives. To avoid stealing or taking what is not freely given. Instead, be generous and open. And also to abstain from sexual misconduct or harmful sexual activity. Instead, if it is in your lifestyle to engage in sexual activity, then do so with care, with love and understanding. Don't do so just for yourself, but to also create some positive and loving connection with your wife or husband or partner. Of course, there are many people in the world that abstain from this. So obviously, continue to abstain if this is your lifestyle. Then we have the right livelihood, to engage in a livelihood that is harmless and that brings benefit. To avoid dealing in weapons and alcohol and drugs. To avoid dealing in things like prostitution and slavery and the slaughtering of living beings, of war, and so forth. Instead, engage in a livelihood that brings benefit to yourself, to your loved ones and family, and to the general community around you. Whatever that may be, in providing them with food, water, shelter, the requisites, the necessities that we need in life, but also to go beyond that and really be of benefit to whoever you can be of benefit towards in your livelihood. So that covers basically the sila or morality higher training. Like I said, and reiterating, right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And then this leads on to the higher training in meditation or mental development. And this includes number 6, 7, and 8 of the Eightfold Path. And that is right effort or enthusiastic perseverance, right mindfulness, and right concentration. And here I'll break up my details that I'm giving you into 2 parts. The first part, the details of these 3, number 6, number 7, number 8 of the Eightfold Path. But also I will give you some instruction on meditation, not specifically to put it into practice today, here and now, but for you to take with you and engage in the meditation practices. And whatever you remember from this talk, or even if you can access the video later, then you can revise on these instructions. Very clear instructions, very simple instructions. I won't go using too many words here, okay? So first of all, right effort, or what I'd like to call enthusiastic perseverance. I use the word enthusiasm because we need to have a sort of an element of enthusiasm to put this into practice with joy, with happiness, but also to persevere, because there are going to be times that you may be tired. You may not feel like practicing, but you should. So generally, you could say you are practicing this great effort or enthusiastic perseverance to maintain a wholesome state of mind and to relinquish the unwholesome states of mind. The four, the 4 great efforts of the Buddha are, if positive or wholesome thoughts have arisen in your mind, then keep them. So if wholesome thoughts have arisen, keep them, nurture them, perfect them. If wholesome thoughts have not yet arisen in your mind, have them arise. The wholesome thoughts based on wisdom and understanding and patience, generosity, love, or loving kindness, compassion, and so forth. If unwholesome thoughts have arisen in your mind, eradicate them, get rid of them. If unwholesome thoughts have not yet arisen in the mind, protect your mind from having them arise. Make sure they don't arise. Unwholesome thoughts based on greed, anger, ignorance, jealousies, and many of the other kilesha or mental afflictions that are unwholesome. So this is the right effort. Then we have right mindfulness. Mindfulness in relation to our body, our mental sensations or feelings, our mind itself, and the activities of the mind, the Dharma, phenomena, mental phenomena. These are known as the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And then we have the right concentration to keep you, a little bit of the allergies today in the summertime with the plants. Then you have the concentration to keep your mind upright, wholesome, clear as possible, developing this concentration through the practice of meditation more and more and more, and eventually to even traverse through what we call the jhanas or mental absorptions, and slowly, gradually purifying the mind. So this is now the higher training in meditation. Now I'll give you some instructions for you to put into practice. So when you sit down for meditation, or whether you're standing or lying down, whichever way suits you, then tend to stretch my body first, and then maybe if you do yoga or even just very simple stretches, either sitting down, standing up, doing these stretches, just so your body is nice and supple, nice and relaxed. Then you sit down, or if you, like I said, standing up still, then you bring your mind, you close your eyes, you bring your mind inside your body. And starting from the tips of your toes, the bottom of the body, work your way all the way up to the shoulders, down to the tips of the fingers, and then back up again to the top of your head. And release all of the tension that you may have in your body as you concentrate on these parts. So for instance, let's say you have some sore shoulders or something, then spend a bit more time on this area. Utilize deep in breath and then long out breath to release the stress, release the tension. This also helps you bring the mind inside the body, ready for the breath meditation. Once you've completed this, you can scan your body once more just to see if there's more tension that you can release. And then after that, you can bring your mind initially to the tip of your nose, and then focus on the feeling of the breath as you breathe in and out. Breathing in your nose with your lips, by the way, gently touching the tongue on the top of the top teeth, so on the upper palate in the mouth, nice and relaxed. Shoulders nice and relaxed, not too tight, not too loose. Then focusing on the breath as you breathe all the way into your lungs. And then as you breathe out your nose again. Breathing in, breathing out. When you practice this meditation, this anapanasati, breath, mindfulness of the breath meditation, that's all you have to do, breathing in and breathing out. This is the most important physical thing that you do. Think about that. We have to breathe all the time. A few minutes of not breathing, maybe no more life. Of course, with food and water and sleep, you have to have these as well, but not every minute or every moment, every few seconds. Okay, so very important that we know that. Once again, it tends to bring the mind inside the body as well. So breathing in, breathing out. If you find it hard to concentrate on your breath, just like that, then you can add the extra technique of counting the breaths. But don't count past 10, because we don't want the counting to be the focus. One in breath, one out breath, that's one. In breath, out breath, two. But if your mind becomes distracted on the way to counting to 10, go back to one at that time. Okay, so anyway, focusing on the breath. If thoughts or any mental activity arises, don't cling to it. Don't grasp at it. But also don't try to forcefully push it away or deny it. But let it go naturally by replacing your mind back onto your breath. That's simple. But because us human beings have a very distracted mind through habits, we will get distracted at different times. Some meditations may be very easy for you. Sometimes maybe you've been very busy and so difficult in the beginning, but as you practice like this, you will improve for sure. Okay, so don't grasp at thoughts or any distractions, and don't cling to them, grasp at them. Don't try to forcefully push them away. Don't turn your back on them, but just let them go naturally by replacing the mind onto the breath. And if your mind starts to become sleepy or dull, then replace your mind onto your breath more brightly. This way, replacing your mind onto your breath is the antidote or the medicine for both the distracted mind as well as the dull mind. And then practice like this for maybe a few minutes in the beginning, and then slowly increase the length of time that you practice. Then another type of meditation that you can practice is called metta bhavana, or loving kindness meditation. You start out by filling your whole being with universal loving kindness. So you could say extending the loving kindness and friendship to yourself. And then after some time, you can radiate it outwards, initially to your family, your loved ones, your friends, and then further and further to strangers, and then to even those people you don't like, maybe you regard as enemies, wishing that all of these people have happiness and cause the happiness, are free from suffering and free from causing suffering, and that they are peaceful. And then you can extend this loving kindness further and further distance-wise around your immediate living area, and then maybe your city or village, then your whole state or county, and your whole country, other countries, those that you're familiar with, feel nice about, those you don't really know, and then even those ones maybe you have some negative feeling for, you extend to them as well. Extend the loving kindness throughout all of the oceans, all of the living beings that live in the water, live on the lands, fly through the air, whether they are born from wombs, eggs, moisture, or through transformation. Extend this loving kindness to all living beings, the ones we know about, the ones we don't know about, whether weak or strong, great or small, short or tall, seen or unseen, near or distant, whether they're born or to be born. May they all be happy. May they all be free from suffering. May they be peaceful. Extend the loving kindness throughout this whole world, and then other worlds throughout the solar system, and other solar systems throughout the galaxy, other galaxies throughout the whole universe, and then eventually your loving kindness pervading all of infinite space. And of course, realizing at the same time you are not disconnected from this. We are all interdependent, all interconnected, all related, all living beings, as well as all of nature, and even inanimate objects and all of space, all interconnected. So that that's covered the meditation, higher training, and I've already alluded to moving into the wisdom higher training, of which it's covered the first and the second of the Eightfold Path. So right understanding means to understand things as they really are, not sort of clouded by delusions and ignorance. Understand the three marks of existence, that all things, animate and inanimate, all conditioned things are impermanent, anicca, have the nature of suffering, dukkha, and are without any separate individual self, anatta or anatma. Okay, to know this, and also know that nirvana, enlightenment, is totally free from conditioned existence, totally free from these three marks of conditioned existence. Then also knowing and understanding the universal law of karma, of cause and effect, karma and vipaka. And also knowing, as I mentioned before, without the cause, when you uproot the cause with wisdom, then there will be no effect of suffering. And also having a thorough understanding of the Four Noble Truths and how to put the Eightfold Path into practice, and then doing it. So knowing the purpose of why we're practicing, knowing the methods that need to be put into practice correctly, and then knowing that we have to put them into practice, right understanding. Then we have the right intentions. So I should mention the right understanding is also the direct antidote for ignorance, uproots ignorance. Then, of course, you have the right intentions or thoughts, the second noble truth. And this is the direct antidote for attachment and aversion. Known together, the ignorance, attachment, and aversion are known as the three poisonous states of mind, or the three poisons. They give rise to all of the other mental afflictions, such as doubts and wrong views and jealousies and so forth, and arrogance. So these give rise, these three give rise to all of the other mental afflictions. So if we purify and uproot these, then we're purifying and uprooting all of the mental afflictions with right understanding and right thoughts or intentions. So this is to have our thoughts or intentions that are free as much as possible from attachment, desire, greed, and so forth, as well as aversion or hatred and anger and other mental afflictions that relate to these. So totally to free your mind from this, to free your mind from worrying about the eight worldly winds of gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and shame, and so forth, okay, and pleasure and pain. And so that will cover, I think, the Eightfold Path and the three higher trainings. We have maybe about another 8 or 9 minutes of this talk to go, as I see the clock on the recording here, counting down. So I will move on to the next aspect, which once again, I won't give you too much detail. Let me see my notes here, so I didn't forget anything. Oh, I should mention too, you can practice what we call vipassana meditation, penetrative insight meditation, to be able to get to understand or develop this right understanding, develop eventually the supreme wisdom, okay, and realize it. So the next little bit I would like to talk about are the Four Immeasurables, or known as the Brahma Vihara, which means in English, the sublime states of mind. They are also known as the Four Immeasurables because they can be developed beyond measure, infinitely. And they also benefit innumerable beings. The first person they benefit when you generate them, develop them, eventually perfecting them, is yourself. Then, of course, others, whoever you come into contact with, but also from a radiation point of view, radiating loving kindness and compassion, for instance, you create more loving kindness and compassion and friendliness throughout your communities, throughout your countries, throughout the world. And we really need this. This is something, there's a lot of negativity throughout our conditioned planet here. So it's important that we generate and extend these good qualities, these immeasurably sublime states of mind outwards. So the first one of these Brahma Viharas is metta. Already spoken about this with the loving kindness meditation, known in Sanskrit as Maitri. And then, of course, we have universal compassion, karuna. Then we have universal empathetic joy, or mudita. And then, of course, we have equanimity, or a non-biased mind, or upekkha, or upeksha. And so these first three must be based on this mind of equanimity, of course. The more the mind is equanimous or equal, non-biased, the more we're able to practice and radiate this universal loving kindness, this metta, the universal compassion, karuna, and also the mudita, the great joy, the empathetic joy, having joy in others' successes. The more we're able to do this evenly and with equality, not only for our loved ones and then not doing it for the people we don't like, but try to develop this mind of equanimity. And by practicing the other ones, even though we're not perfect right now, by practicing metta, karuna, mudita, and increasing them, increasing our ability to really, really practice them, then will help to create the conditions for our mind to be non-biased, for the mind to have upekkha. Okay, so universal loving kindness is the wish that all living beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. The karuna is the wish that all living beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Then the mind of mudita is like the wish that we we take great joy in the successes of others, especially on the Dharma path towards enlightenment. And then, like mentioned, the mind of equanimity or upeksha is the mind that is free from attachment to what we find pleasing and free from aversion from what we find unpleasant. So this covers the four immeasurables, the Brahma Vihara. Also, really important is that we become more generous as time goes on. For generosity is the direct antidote for attachment, for selfishness, self-centeredness, for greed. The more generous our mind is, the less greed we have. So you could say that the generosity is like the door to the Dharma. As we develop a mind of generosity, the door to the Dharma becomes wide open for us to enter into. So now I would like to mention Mahayana teaching on the 6 paramitas, which represent the first 6 of what we call the Bodhisattva Bhumis. This is after you have a glimpse of the nature of reality. I won't go into detail here. And then, of course, there's another 4 on top of that to become 10 paramitas before a living being becomes a Buddha. So the first 6 relate to the first 6 of the bhumis. So the 6 paramitas are the perfection or paramita of dana, generosity, the perfection of sila or morality or discipline, the perfection of shanti or patience, the perfection of effort or virya, the perfection of concentration or samadhi, and the perfection of wisdom, prajna. Of course, the perfection of wisdom is what makes the other ones perfect. First of all, of course, these can be practiced all together, but we normally mention them in order as well and practice them in order. Because as we develop these perfections, generosity and onwards, when you perfect them or when you get better at them, then they help the next one. So the perfection of generosity, you be generous. You be generous in giving material aid to those who really need it. To give protection from fear, because many people have fears. You help to alleviate those fears. And also the giving of the Dharma, giving of the Buddha-Dharma. And so this helps us to be more moral and be able to practice sila in maintaining the good actions of body, speech, and mind, wholesome actions. And then, of course, relinquishing the unwholesome actions of body, speech, and mind and bringing benefit to others. And then this helps us in turn to be more patient even when being harmed, patient when we have difficulties on the Dharma path, patient when we don't understand the deeper teachings. And then this helps us to be able to develop more and more effort with enthusiasm to maintain the wholesome state of mind, relinquish the unwholesome states of mind, and have enthusiasm for our practice. And then go through the different stages of the concentration, different jhanas, purifying the mind as we go. And then, of course, realize the supreme wisdom by hearing the Dharma, contemplating the Dharma, and meditating on the Dharma and absorbing your mind with the Dharma. So I know that we've gone under 1 minute on the time clock there. I don't know exactly what amount of time we have, maybe 20 seconds. I rejoice in your merits, in your goodness. Thank you so much for attending today. And thanks to Pankaj and his great team, auspicious team, for organizing such an event and inviting me to come and speak at it. I look forward to seeing you another time. Take good care of yourselves. Take good care of your family. Be well, be happy. Namo Buddhaya. Namo